Alright, so we're making this video to make sure that everyone can use their trusty TI-84 and calculate whatever they need to calculate for their data sets so that we can spend maximum amount of our brain time on thinking about what is it we're doing and what do these numbers mean. Okay, so first we have to start with the data set, and we are going to start with a data set that, let me move this out of the way, that our author starts with. He has a list of the data of the presidential inaugural word counts for all the inaugural addresses given by our presidents. And it's on page 175, number 10, and I'm going to read it off the site that he got it from, infoplease.com, which I'm sure they probably got it from somewhere else. So I'm going to enter the first few, show you how to do that, and then let's see, I'll move that over to the side. I've got this zoom so that you can make sure you see the screen and all. So what do we do first? Well, first I am going to clear the screen, and then I'm going to stat and edit, and I notice that I've got some data in L1, and that's where I want to enter these word counts. So I'm going to clear that out. Like anything in the world, there's 10 different ways of doing it. Well, actually I can think of 2 or 3, but I will show you one. So I click up, I go up here, and notice that down here I have the list all given out. So if I hit enter, I am now editing this in clear. Enter again, and boom, that list is clear. So however you want to do it, clear out a list to make room for the data. So the first data is 1,425 words. Enter. And now I'm getting ready to enter the second list, the second entry into this list. Okay, so which is, I think, actually the shortest of all inaugural addresses, 135 words. And the next one, 2308. Okay, so you enter your data, I'll enter my data, and I'll come right back in a second. All right, bye. Okay, so we've got that data entered. Notice that the blank line here, that if I entered another number, would be line 57, which means there's 56 data points in this. Actually, it's not a sample. It's every inaugural address of our presidents, the U.S. presidents. I would like to go maybe to the top. I could scroll slowly through all of these, or I can scroll down and pop back up at the top. It loops around like that. Isn't that cool? So here's my data. Now, I'm going to sort this data in terms of size, but right now it's actually in time series order, and I might want to preserve that or use this data at some other time. So let me show you a way of storing this data to the side, so even if you erase L1, you can get at this data again. So go to the home screen, so quit out of here, and let's put in L1, which is where this data is listed now, L1, and then store. There's the store button, and then use your alpha button, type in pres. So actually I'm going to put on the alpha lock, but you can do whatever you want. And let's see, we've got P R E S, and then hit enter. And what that does, let me show you what it does. So go under list, which is right above the stats, and you'll see that for the names there's L1 through L6, and now we've got a list called pres. And so you can use that to generate data or store it back into one of our L1s through L6s. So nothing's going to mess with that data now. We will never have to enter it again. So I encourage you to enter that data, stick it somewhere, and keep it safe. Now, having said that, let's create a histogram with this data. I don't have to do this, but first I'm going to actually sort the data. So let's go to Stats and Sort A. That's Sort Ascending. Okay, and I'll put in L1. And hit enter in the home screen. And now let's go look at our data. Aha! Ascending order. That's nice, huh? And we can actually, using just this order here, start picking out things like the median and the percentile, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's first just get a nice histogram to figure out how this data looks. So for a histogram, what I'd like to know is the minimum and the maximum value. So now that we've sorted, I know that the minimum is 135 and the maximum, I'm going to loop up actually to see the maximum, 8,445. Now we said in class that it would be nice to have, for data sizes around 50. Let's just out of the blue, let's just say between 6 and 10 bins to start with to get us going. So if I start at 0 and go to 9,000 and use 1,000 as the bin size, that'll give me 9 bins and I'll capture all of this. So let's do that. So I'll go to y equals to check to see if I'm graphing anything, and lo and behold I am. I might want to keep that because it's hard to type in x squared again. So what I'll do is I'll highlight the equal sign and just hit enter, and what that does is it turns that plot off. Very good, right? Now we'll go up to stat plot, or you can just erase it. Either way. We're going to use plot 1 here. You could have several going on, but we're going to use plot 1, so I just hit enter. And first thing I do is hit enter again to turn it on. See how I've turned that on? And then I'm going to scroll down and choose the histogram right there. Looks like kind of a hand or something. Right? Later we're going to be using box plots, but that right there is what we want. So when I hit enter, it says, oh, it's a list, and then when I have a frequency of 1, it just means that this is not grouped data that we might talk about later. Okay, so there we go. Now we go to window, and what did we say we were going to do? Well, we're going to start at 0, so that'll be our X-min. We're going to end at 9,000. And we're going to use a bin size of 1,000. For our bars, we'll start at 0, and I'm going to leave it at 10, and let's see, we've only got 56 data points. We'll see if any of the bars break 10. We'll see what happens. So I'm ready to graph. So I hit graph. Aha! So we see that we have 2 bars that actually bust the 10 mark right here. So to find out exactly how high it goes, I'll do a trace. And what do I have? I've got there, up, I've got 20 in the second bar here, and I have 18 in the bar after that. So I'm going to go back to my window, and I'm going to set the height, the Y max, to 21 to make sure all those can get included, and then I'll regraph it. And so there's my histogram. Notice I have 2 blanks, and if you trace across, you realize there's 7 in that. There's 4 that were between 4,000 and 5,000 words. There was 1 that had over 5,000 words but less than 6,000. None at the 6, 7, 7, 8, and then 1 at 8,000 to 9,000. That was a long one. I think that was Harrison. I'm not sure. So my only concern here is this is a pretty good histogram. We could work with this, but I am just curious. We've got a lot of these talks that went in between the 1,000 to 2,000 and the 2,000 to 3,000. So I might want to break those up. So now that I see the histogram, I'm going to break my rule of thumb, and that's all it is. And I'm going to break the bin size down to 500 and break these up and see if there's anything interesting going on there. So I'm going to go back to my window, and I'm going to keep this at 9,000 but break up the bins to double what I had and make this 500 and regraph it again. Aha! Now when I trace across, I see that my biggest bin, which is between 2,000 and 2,500 words, has 14, so I can shrink the height, give me a little scale. I also know way down here, I noticed that last 500 mark, we don't actually need between 8,500 and 9,000, so I can kind of zoom in on the interesting area by changing my window slightly. So first of all, I'm going to change this to 8500, and I'm going to switch this down to 15, graph, and voila. And I like that histogram. It tells me some things, and I think I would stick with that. So with that, I will stop here and we'll pick up from this on the next video. Okay? Thanks.